G'day, this is the TinaCloud Sprint 63 Retro, Sprint 62 Retro, and the Sprint 63 Forecast. So we are looking at the sprint goals, and here we have we have the upgrade plate. Ben, do you want to speak to that?
Yep. So we finally got to the end for this one. So we made a release yesterday, which means everyone can then use the latest versions of TinaCMS, which is 2.8, that have the upgrade editor.
Cool.
I thought we have a visual YouTube that we can have a quick look on how it looks like.
Yeah, I will bring that up.
Sorry, if you don't mind me asking, are there any breaking changes for that plate upgrade?
The only things that will potentially break on user side is the mermaid. If you're using mermaid diagram, then you need some tweak on that.
Okay, we don't really use mermaid, so I think it should be fine.
Yep. So not going to play this video because we're gonna do a test place on this and publish into the channel for now, but this is basically how it looks like for the new editor. So the code blocks is the biggest changes. It looks different when you use it compared to the last one.
How long is the video?
2 minutes, under 2 minutes.
Yeah, just play 30 seconds of it. Just the best 30 seconds.
First 30 seconds.
The best 30 seconds.
Where should we start, Ben?
I'll probably go with a 20 second start from there, maybe. Yeah.
I need to make sure that everybody can hear it first, so let me know when I play.
I cannot hear it.
You'll need to probably stop sharing and share with audio.
Might be just easier if Ben quickly speaks to it.
Alright, I got share sound here. Let me know if that works. Otherwise, I'll get Ben to just speak to it.
Before the upgrade, it have 39
It's all good.
And after it using the latest TinaCMS versions, it has bring down the vulnerability packages to 26. You now have the new code blocks. It comes with the autocomplete on the top right, where you can search with the language that you want and start typing your code. These new code blocks have better UI and have better editing experience compared to the old one. It also resolves some of the bugs in the previous code blocks, such as the undefined show up when there's nothing in the code blocks. Next, we got a new way of using Mermaid. From now on, Mermaid has been merged into the code blocks rather than a standalone plugin. You can start using the Mermaid by searching the languages from the top right autocomplete and start writing your Mermaid diagram.
All right, we'll leave it there. All right, we have 111.5 hours build on TinaCloud to Nick, Eli, Brooke, and Matt. And on TinaCMS, we have 46 hours build to Jack and Ben. On our sprint backlog, we have our upgrade plate that we just spoke about. That is done. The add authorization for GitHub, so TinaCloud can act as the user. Brooke, do you want to speak on that?
Yeah, sure. So there's two things here. Sorry about that. There's add user authorization for GitHub. So I'll give a small demo of this. This allows users to sign in using their GitHub account essentially, and all of the commits from Tina and GitHub related actions from Tina will be authored by them. And then we've also got TinaCloud's webhook support, which finally got merged in. I'll take over the screen share briefly just to give a quick demo of that. Cool. Can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Awesome. So to enable the git auth we jump into your user settings, and there's now this GitHub authoring tab. You can go ahead and click enabled, and that's all you have to do to enable it. Now every commit made from Tina will be authored via you. So I can jump into TinaCMS. If I go ahead and make a change here, I can see that TinaCMS will now actually create it under my user account, which is very cool. This makes some really good progress into the future plans to hide the whole PR approval workflow now that things are being created by the user. I can't locally showcase the webhooks just to some local issues currently, but those are enabled on a per project basis. If I go to a project, we now have this webhooks page, and we can go ahead and add webhooks. There's docs for all of these that can be found at tina.io/docs. I'll zoom in. So they can be found in the Tina Cloud key features and webhooks docs, which show you how to set everything up, what the logs will look like, and what those requests will look like. And we've also got docs to be soon coming into the about the GitHub authoring and how to enable that and what it actually does. Are there any questions in regards to that? Cool.
Questions, moving on. We have the plate and Zod enhanced markdown editor with schema enforcement. Is it Ben or Jack? You want to speak to that?
Yeah. So this is a request by Adam, which we can potentially use Zod that help or improve our editor, plate editor. We have a look into that. Long story short, we think that it's not quite valuable for now. We have bigger things to do, such as the form and things, rebuild the form system. There's more details in the PBI, but basically the biggest takeaway from here is it doesn't give any benefit to the user, but it's just improves a little bit of developer experience if we use Zod in our current state. That's the finding. But for details, we can talk about that after the meeting, I guess.
Cool. Sprint burn down and dashboard. We have 32 effort completed and 24 remaining. Code coverage not yet logged. And with the production deployments, we have 6 deployments for Tina Cloud and 2 releases for TinaCMS. The latest version 2.8.0 being released on Monday, the 7th of July. Yesterday. So, with the application health overview, we have Identity API HTTP 500s increased from 272 to 1040 due to issues with the GitHub auth token retrieval. The Content API HTTP 500s increased from 58 to 677 due to the AWS service fault. Yeah, cool. So the accounts created, zoom out a bit. Accounts created increased from 194 to 199. Trend of organizations created over the last 30 days. Yeah, if we just look to our current sprint, we can see that it remained quite flat. Sign up to commit conversions, overall conversation decrease from 13.9 to 12.3. Not sure if we need to set mode to be conversion.
Yes.
All right. Clones of the TinaCMS Tina Barebone Starter GitHub repository over the last 2 weeks increased from 82 to 84. Clones of the TinaCMS Tina Cloud Starter repo repository over the last 2 weeks increased from 153 to 162. And the clones of the TinaCMS Tina self-hosted demo repo over the last 2 weeks decreased from 37 to 32. Downloads of TinaCMS packages decreased from 17,868 to 16,482. And our epics, notably the next.js 15 support, increased from 66% to 83%. Our R&D, experimental work, Ben, you want to speak to that? Or it's a plate upgrade. So I guess we already discussed that. Released in 2.8.0. AI tools, Brooke was using Gemini, Ben, Cursor, Nixie was GitHub Copilot, ChatGPT. Myself, I was using Cursor and ChatGPT, and Jack P, ChatGPT, Yakshaver. What went well? New TinaCMS release.
Sorry, before we
Yep.
start the retro, could you just add in the AI summary from Copilot and throw in those 2 screenshots that are in the chat, and that will tell you how long and also the main people that were involved in the sprint review. So just throw that in just now. And in the meantime, Brooke, your co-authoring feature, which seems very important, is there a done video on that? Are you planning on that? Like, how?
Yeah, I need to write.
how
I
we
need to
get-
make a done video. I haven't done
Are
it
we
yet.
going to-
There's docs, but not a done video yet.
Okay. Would we be able to, like, do you think we should do a blog post on this feature?
I think it should be a blog first. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And also, I think there was a piece of social media that went out about the React 19 upgrade. Is that right, Seth? How did you get that information?
That came from the blog about.
Oh, there was a blog on that. So it was basically a social media post on the blog.
Every time there's a blog, there's a post about it.
Okay. All right. Okay. So that's good. And I would say to you, Ben, that it probably is a good idea if you show us those videos that you made on your feature prior to the sprint review. Yep. Yeah. Eli, can I just confirm you're adding a section called AI Copilot Stats and pasting those 2 images?
To this email here?
Yes, you're adding a heading called Copilot Stats and then putting in those 2 images that were in the chat. So Jack, were you closely involved in the in this stuff that Ben was talking about with Zod?
I kind of was. He went off and researched, and I pointed him to some, previous talks that Jeff and us kind of talked to in the past about it. I also asked Jeff to see if he can write a note, but he was unavailable last week, so he'll probably have some insights this week.
Has Isaac been involved too?
A little bit, but not as deeply as Ben and myself.
Okay. And what percentage chance do you give it, Jack, of us going forward trying to put Zod in?
Pretty small. I think it's a pretty big change for not a lot of improvement.
Right. Okay. And Ben, what's your feeling?
Yeah, same. It's a big changes, but it's a small improvement.
Right. Okay. And do you know what? Do you know? Does anybody else have an opinion? Does Jeff have an opinion on whether he thinks it's worth the effort.
Yeah, probably we should ask Jeff because the PBI was starting from him, I guess. And you, who is in the video about that, right?
Yep.
I think, yeah, we need to get some insight from Jeff as well.
Right. Okay. All right. Okay.
Did I hear the developers say that there is no real development or no real increased experience for the user?
Yeah, I think let's give an
that's everything,
example of where Zod's schema validation would help. Sorry, Eli, don't resize these images because they look weird.
Don't resize them.
Well, sounds like looks like you've aggressively resized, have you?
Just the top one I resized because it was quite large. The bottom one I didn't resize at all.
Oh, okay. The bottom one's a weird one.
Yeah, it didn't.
And
come out a bit weird there.
Copilot is one word. I don't think it has a cap. It doesn't have a dash, and I don't think it has a capital P.
Oh yeah.
And I would put something more meaningful in the figure. Copilot meeting was 1 hour, 31 minutes.
Yeah, just bear with my laptop's
and the second figure would say, Eli and Nick did most talking. Why is it showing speaker 1 and speaker 2 rather than whoever was in the meter?
Sorry, just for that figure, what was that you wanted to add? It was just taking a while for my laptop to load.
Something of interest rather than what it is. Rather than,
yeah,
I would say Copilot meeting was 1 hour 31 or something that is interesting on that screenshot.
Yeah.
And on the next one, you'd say Eli and Nick did most of the talking or something. Whatever was significant that you pick up from that. Don't worry about seconds. We don't care about seconds. 1.5 hours is plenty. Anyway. Okay. Why is it showing speaker 1 and speaker 2? Does anyone know?
Does that have anything to do with us not being in the team? So like we can't access the chat. Maybe that's why it's not recognizing us as.
You were never in this meeting.
That's what I'm saying.
This is the prior meeting.
But I'm talking about anyone who isn't. Is everyone on the chat?
No, it's before this meeting. Somebody did a lot of speaking in green. I don't know who did all that speaking. It could have been Brooke.
Yeah, that's strange.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm not sure, but
yeah, Brooke, it's something you can turn off.
Ask ChatGPT to see if there's a setting you guys have turned on which adds privacy and we can't see your names or something. But there's clearly a setting that's different. All right. Okay. All right. Keep going on with the retrospective.
Continuing, what went well? Jack P, TinaCMS new release and plate upgrade.
Eli, just hand it over to Jack to talk to it.
All right.
Save yourself some speaking.
Cool. Jake, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah. So yeah, we got 2 releases out with some pretty cool features. I mean, the biggest being the plate upgrade. Now we jumped from 36 to 48, and we've also got the new UI out last week as well. So some pretty exciting stuff coming out in the past 2 weeks. That's really cool to see.
Beautiful. Rook and Nick, you want to speak to the GitHub authoring and native PR process?
It was good to get both of those in. Both of those were pretty big PRs and substantial work. The GitHub authoring is very cool now that if you've got a GitHub account, it's just from your user. That'll do a lot of work towards our native PR process, which we plan to hide away in the future. And then getting Kelly's webhook feature in is awesome. That was a very big PR. It was a big sizable chunk of work, and to have that in production now is pretty cool.
Sweet.
Just on Kelly's one, I think the impression I got is Kelly likes to do the work. If it's roughly okay, even if there's code quality issues, he'd prefer to get them in the code base in production. We typically are a bit more hardcore on all our reviews, especially I know Matt promotes that a lot, and we do that with our own clients. How long do you think it took us to go get him to fix all the little bits and pieces until we were ready compared with when he was ready?
We took over a lot of that. Nick and I took over a lot of the nitpicks and did a lot of that work for him.
Right. Okay. So rather than give him the pain of all the changes, you just did it for him. Okay. And did you let him know what changes you were making? Well, I know he can inspect it
I
himself.
kept him up to date with it.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, I think that's the best you can do. Yeah. All right.
Great. Well, it didn't go so well. Not much, but just me. My new laptop did not arrive, so I'm just still working on my current laptop that is very slow. What improvements will be made for the next sprint? Brooke, you mentioned everybody has to upskill a bit more on TinaCloud. Do you want to speak more about that, Brooke?
No, just it'll be a lot more upskilling, which will be good for the whole team. I think everyone knowing a bit more of the system.
Agreed. Right, so that was the Sprint 62 retro for TinaCloud. And now moving on to the forecast.
Hold on. I'll just add, I think if Ben could show me the video prior to the sprint review, that's one more improvement.
I see.
Yeah. So as long as we've got the video and there's been a test passed by a couple of people, then I definitely want to see it.
I think I did show you. We just did not sit down together and watch it together, I think.
I haven't seen that video. I'm not sure how you showed it to me.
I sent you the link in the chat.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. No, I'd call me and we'd do it together. I wouldn't watch a video giving you feedback without talking to you.
Well, sure, Ben called Adam for the done video. Okay. Moving on to the forecast. Sprint goal is the editorial workflow, handling the PR generation service side. Seems like this is going to be a big improvement for the editorial workflow, as there has been some issues that we may have been due to the editorial workflow process. So just getting that a bit more ironed out and working will be a big improvement. And our sprint backlog, we have the editorial workflow, our display more repository information like GitHub for the repository grid. Previous source images don't have base path applied. Fix the default props deprecation error. And then we just got the Discord chat. All right, so this has been the Sprint Retro and forecast for TinaCloud, and hope you guys enjoyed. Cheers.